welcome back to my channel. This is just an update video, and also I'd like to carry on talking a bit about empathy and a discussion around autism and empathy. So first of all, just to update you, I had my flu jab yesterday at 12 o'clock, which was anxiety provoking, but I'm glad I had it done. So far I haven't had any side effects at all. My arm doesn't even ache, which is pretty good. Just a little bit tender, but nothing else. So yeah, that's good. My dad's had the flu jab for years, and he never gets any side effects from it either. So that's good. Because the COVID one gave me a very achy arm, at least the second one did. Funnily enough, the COVID vaccine was the only time, because I never normally get reactions from vaccines, but the COVID vaccine was the only time I've ever had a really achy arm from a vaccine. The first one didn't. The first one was only slightly achy. The second one was really achy, and the third one was sort of between the first and the second. So the third one wasn't as bad as the second. It was just slightly achy. The first one I didn't really have any effects. But yeah, I've had loads of vaccinations in my life, and normally I don't get. I pretty much don't react to vaccines at all. I don't get any side effects really. But I think the COVID vaccine is possibly a bit more potent than other vaccines, because even I got some side effects from them, but only in the achy arm sense. But yeah, the flu vaccine, nothing so far, which is good. Particularly as I will want to be having it every year, and I've been so that's good. And I'm relieved it's all over. And I've got the COVID vaccine now booked, the fourth one, for next Wednesday at 9:30, the same nurse who did it last time. I'm really hoping that once I've had this one, at least after 2 weeks have elapsed, because it takes time to build for protection, that my OCD will be reduced, because I really am getting fed up with living the way I am. I don't know, I can't say for certain that it's going to happen, and it's definitely not a magic bullet or panacea for my issues by a long way. But I really am hoping that it might just make me feel a bit more relaxed, and I really would like to be able to see my dad again. I am thinking in my head about how that can happen. Even if I could just see my dad, because I know he's pretty safe now, as he's already had COVID, and he will be having his 5th vaccine next week, so it's unlikely he's going to get it again anytime soon. I would like to be able to see my dad. I'm really hoping that I might be able to see him for tea in the garden or something, make a cake or have tea cakes with him in the garden, He hasn't got a table yet for that. We've got some chairs, but I'm thinking I could easily move the table in the kitchen out into the garden, actually, so that could be possible, because I really want to, and once I've had the 4th, I think I will feel more protected, and it is a lot safer, obviously, seeing people outside anyway, so that would be absolutely amazing if I can do that. I really am hoping, just tiny steps like that in and of itself will be massive if I could do that, and I'm just really hoping my OCD will allow that, but I can't say hand on heart, but I am thinking about it, and trying to psych myself up to do that, and I am speaking to my psychologist about it. I'm also hoping I'll be able to change my route when out walking, and maybe not be so anxious walking past people in the street, or I'll have to wear a mask if I try to do that. I'm actually going to order some cloth masks off Amazon next week, because I sort of feel a bit less self-conscious wearing cloth masks when out and about than one of those clinical ones. I don't think it's so important when you're out and about how good quality the mask is, because it's you're outside. It's not like you're in. It's more important when you're inside, I think. And but I was thinking I could easily wear 2 cloth masks, and that would just make me feel more protected if I'm trying to walk past people, not cross the road and stuff. Even though I know obviously you're a lot safe. You probably don't need to wear a mask just for being out and about, walking past people in the street, but obviously with my OCD, I will. But yeah, I'm really hoping that this vaccine will really click something in my brain, and just because I'm getting so fed up, but we'll just have to see. Even if I could just make really small steps. I'm not going to be able to go into shops anytime soon. I'm not going to be able to go on public transport anytime soon. But if I can at least maybe try not to cross the road all the time when I see people, to feel a bit more relaxed when I'm out and about, to be able to see my dad again maybe, that would be amazing. So they would be really good steps if I can do that. So we'll just have to wait and see. But it does open the doors for that as a possibility. So I just have to hope that 2 weeks or so after the vaccine, because that's obviously a way for immunity to build, that will make me feel more safe, basically. Yeah, it'd just be good when it's all over and done with, though. It's always stressful. Okay, so in this video, I wanted to carry on talking about empathy. And specifically around Simon Baron-Cohen and Simon Baron-Cohen's research on empathy, because I don't normally agree with Simon Baron-Cohen, as I might have talked about in some of my other videos. Simon Baron-Cohen's idea about the extreme male brain, this idea that men have less empathy than women and are better at systematising, and women are more empathetic and so on. I don't agree with him there. I understand he's only talking about averages, and I also understand that men are often raised, or men are often raised to be less empathetic and caring than women, and obviously, you know, that can play out in social interactions and things like that. I disagree with his idea that this is somehow a fixed thing. I think it is more society and culture and neurology, so that's where I disagree with him. I don't dispute that there might be differences between, on very crude average differences in terms of how much empathy your average man or woman has. I disagree that this is something innate. I think it is more a societal thing to do with culture and the way boys are raised to be, you know, more intellectual and maybe not to care so much and so on. But I disagree against such a thing as a male brain, like an extreme male brain. I disagree with him there. So, yeah, I do have issues with some of his arguments, but that doesn't mean I don't disagree with everything he says, and some of the things he says I actually do think have value. It's like with anyone, you could disagree fundamentally with one thing they say, and think that's a load of baloney, but you can agree and think they make a lot of sense in another area. So just because they don't speak sense in one area doesn't mean that they should be discounted in other things they say. And I do think Simon Baron-Cohen has done some solid research on empathy and autism, and I do think that some of his findings actually do make sense. And as an autistic person, I see what he talks about mirrored in my own experience of how I experience empathy or have difficulties with empathy. So one of Simon Baron-Cohen's books, and I have read it but a long time ago now, so I can't quite recall exactly what was in the book, because it's a really, really long time ago. But one of the books he wrote was called 0 Degrees of Empathy. Now, this book has been misinterpreted by people. A lot of people haven't even read it, or I think they know what it's about, but they haven't actually properly read it, or they've just like skimmed parts of it. Now, obviously, as I said, the extreme male brain stuff I don't agree with, but the bits that don't talk about that I do agree with. In some ways it's a little bit unfortunate that he talks about psychopaths and other people with empathy problems in the same book as autism, and I think that's where some of the misunderstandings have been, because maybe people don't interpret it correctly, or they erroneously equate autism with psychopathy, when Simon Baron's point is actually they're completely different. They're actually polar opposites. Both conditions involve problems with empathy, but they both have completely different outcomes, whereas the autistic person is usually highly moral and keen to do the right thing and has a moral compass. The psychopath doesn't, and that's because the psychopathic difficulty with empathy is completely different to the autistic difficulty with empathy. They're both empathy disorders, but that doesn't mean they're the same. You know what I mean? So actually, I'm going to move over to video number 2 now, because I actually want to talk in a little bit more depth about Simon Baron-Cohen and autism and empathy, and why I actually think he is correct, at least on this issue. So moving over to video number 2 now.